one of the questions you need to ask yourself is, how can I get it? How can I prove that this really is the best option? So that's one of the questions. When I'm planning out articles, I actually plan article topics around proof I have. So it's not a matter of, I'm going to write an article on this subject, and then I go looking for the proof. Usually I start with a piece of proof, and then I develop articles around that piece of proof.
I love that.
You hear all the bull about marketing every day. Make your money in your sleep. My new offer is crushing it. My guru could beat up your guru. It's time to go right to the source and get the truth about marketing. With your host, the founder of copychief.com, Kevin Rogers.
Hey, welcome back to The Truth About Marketing. It's Kev Rogers here, and this is the show where we go deep with the actual business owners who are out there making things happen. And we got a great one today. Jon Morrow is here from smartblogger.com. Jon is an amazing writer. I've just met Jon recently out at Ryan Levesque's Ask Intensive, and I'm a little embarrassed to say that I was very aware of Jon and just hadn't really engaged with his blog, and have since become a huge fan, slowly catching up with his amazing repertoire of content. And the thing that strikes me about Jon, you may know that Jon, at a very early age, was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, and so he he's in a wheelchair, and he does everything by voice to text. But I'll tell you, the writing is definitely top of the heap, certainly in our industry, but of any blogger I've come across. So really thrilled to have Jon on today to talk about writing, teaching, writing, and trying to make a little extra money in this great wide world of digital marketing. So Jon, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's really going to be fun, and so much I want to ask you about. But I want to talk about one thing that's really struck me about becoming one of your new most avid readers is that you focus so much on positive reinforcement, letting people know, no, you can do this. Is that what you see as the number one hindrance for somebody who wants to start a blog? Do they just feel like why me? Why would anybody read my stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely true for bloggers. It's also true, without a doubt, for any type of information marketing business. So, I mean, we sell courses too, and I've seen the same thing in every industry for information products. The number one reason why people don't buy is a lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. They either usually, I mean, you think that, people aren't believing my claims, but usually they do believe your claims. They just don't believe that they are capable of executing
right.
Whatever you're talking about. And usually it's because they've tried and they've failed before, So instilling that sense of belief is one of the things I do. I mean, even whenever I do live webinars, one of my favorite things to do is I make people promise me that for the next hour, that they are going to leave their self-doubt at the door, mm-hmm. and make them actually type in. And I probably sit there for 2 or 3 minutes and make them all type in, yes, I agree.
A little contract.
Yeah, it's a little contract with people. And I do that immediately after telling them my story, and it's in some ways it's a gift. I mean, one of the things I've learned is every challenge you have in life can also be a gift if you look at it the right way. And I mean, my disability is a tremendous gift in that respect, from a sales respect, because it takes away everyone's excuses.
That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you don't have a disability, I think you have to find other ways to do that with your market. You always want to be thinking, I mean, whether it's an information product or anything, people always have a list of excuses
Right.
about why they can't do it right now. And I think one of the things you have to do is systematically take those away.
And what do you find is the most effective? Obviously, with you, you have sort of like like you said, a really advantageous "what's your excuse" thing, But beyond that, when it comes to getting people to keep it up, right? They sure. Between that and the fact that your material's so great, getting somebody excited on a webinar is one thing. How do you find we can best get people past sort of the demons of self-doubt that creep up after the fact and procrastination when some of the excitement is worn off and it's time to really sit and do consistent work?
Yeah, there are a few things that I've learned. And I mean, before I explain those, though, I mean, the first thing I'll say is I don't have a 100% answer to that question. I mean, I'd love to say that 100% of the people who go through our courses complete it, but it's just not true.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing for anybody out there.
No doubt.
But we have learned a few things that do improve the rate at which people complete courses, and a lot of them are really simple. The first one is just breaking the steps in the homework assignments down as much as possible. So one of the things that we did on one of our courses is it was like a total of we had these like hour-long videos that the people would go through, and then there would be a big homework assignment at the end. And we broke it down into 5 to 10 minute lessons. And every homework assignment could be done in less than 15 minutes. So we just broke it down into smaller steps. So that's part of it, is just breaking things down into steps for people. And then the other part of it is, like if we're doing Q&A calls, I'm just really kind of brutal with people on Q&A calls. And I just tell them, you paid for entrance into this, and you have me at your disposal to help you. And if you don't use me, then look at the enormous opportunity you're wasting here. And you really have to do the work. So I'm probably a little bit more just sort of brutally honest with people than your average person. That's another thing, by the way, that is another gift of my disability with copy or with anything. I can say things that people would probably find offensive if it was coming from anyone else.
Right. Yeah. I guess that's a good point. Why is that? Just because they know you've been through it, huh?
They know I've been through it, and also I think we're all sort of preconditioned to not get angry at people who have disabilities. I mean, so like even when I did face-to-face sales for a little while, and I was the number one person, like immediately.
This was real estate?
Yeah, it was when I was in real estate. I mean, I was doing, so I did two different things. Number one is I bought and sold houses. And I also ended up starting a private real estate fund that we raised about $50 million for. Wow. And I could go into people's offices and literally show up without an appointment and say, I'm here to see so-and-so. And you're just not going to throw a guy in his wheelchair out of the office. It's just not going to happen. So in every single case, they would say, okay, but he's only got 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. So I could get in to see anyone. All the way up to billionaires. And I think, in some ways, that's a huge advantage. But what separates me from a lot of other people is, I guess, I'm not afraid to ruthlessly exploit that advantage when it's to the benefit of the other person.
Right.
So if it's only to my benefit, that would be unethical.
Yeah.
But if it's to their benefit, then I'm actually not afraid of using that as one of the tools.
I love that. That's so cool. Is there a second part to that? Like, so just to say a billionaire or somebody who's guarding there's a watchdog out front. Their job is to protect this person's time, right? You come rolling in, and is it not just that here's a guy with a disability, but what's the appeal to make time with this person?
So what I would do is I would often just start out with whenever I did that, I found it was best to just say, I'm here to see Joe. I was going to talk to him for a few minutes. About 50% of the time, they wouldn't even ask me what it was about.
Wow.
So if you come in with confidence, and you just act like you're supposed to be there,
right? Yeah.
And a lot of times they would look down and say, "Well, I don't see your appointment on the schedule," and I would say, "Oh no, and usually I had a referral from someone that they knew. And so I was talking with Paul, and Paul said I really needed to connect with Joe. So I was just in the neighborhood. I thought I would stop by for 10 minutes. Whenever they would ask me what it was about, what I would do is I would just tell them this is about so the project that I raised the most money for was actually a development where they were developing Elvis Presley's honeymoon ranch in Mississippi. And it was where he proposed to Priscilla and all of this stuff. So I told them, we have this project where we're developing Elvis Presley's honeymoon ranch. And I carried around a stack of articles from, different newspapers about the project, which gave us some legitimacy and proof. So there's another copywriting lesson. Whenever you can validate through external trusted sources, that's extremely valuable. So we collected those. I would deliberately do whatever we could do to get press. Not so much, to get the press, but just to be able to use it as a proof piece.
Right.
When raising money. And because of that, when I would go into the meeting, I would never try to sell them on an investment either. I would always just try to get them to come visit the property. That was the next step. And we had this whole choreographed thing. And it was the craziest thing. I didn't know how special this was until afterward when I really started to learn more about sales. I had a 100% close rate. I never had someone go on the trip. If I could get them to go on the trip to see the property, I never had someone leave without investing. Just learning, what's the cycle that people have to go through? How can you break it into steps to get those micro commitments from people? In this case, the minimum investment on those projects was $100,000. So we're talking pretty big ticket. But it's even true on smaller ticket things. How can you get those micro commitments from people?
Right.
To get them to move forward?
I love that. Can you talk a little bit about that confidence? I'm guessing a lot of that comes from your mom.
It does. It does. Yeah, I mean, my mother is an extremely special woman. Growing up, she never actually told me I was disabled. I didn't actually hear that word until I started kindergarten. And it was on the first day of kindergarten. And I heard the word, another kid asked me, so how did you get disabled? And I literally had no idea what he was talking about.
Wow.
I didn't understand the question. And I asked him, what does disabled mean? And he started laughing, and he went to tell the teacher. He doesn't know what disabled means. And she came over and she asked me, you really don't know what that means? And I said, no. And she, I could see, this struggle going on her face. And she said, well, I think this is something you're going to have to talk to your mom about. And so all day long, I was feeling terrible. I didn't know what the whole thing was about. And, I went to my mom after school. I was 5 years old and asked her, what does disabled mean? And she thought about it. And what she told me was, she said, it means you can't do something as well as someone else and you need help. And I remember saying it was something along the lines of, you mean like you help me with my homework? You help me with my ABCs? And she thought about it for a second and she said, yeah, that's exactly what it means. And she said, and all of us have something that we can't do as well as someone else. And so we're all disabled in some way.
Oh, man.
And she said, people, whenever you need help with something, then ask them to help you. And she said, whenever you're good at something, better at other people, then you need to also take the opportunity to help them, is what she told me.
That's so empowering.
Yeah. So that was huge. And just her belief in me, she never let me use it as an excuse. There was never a case, Mom, I can't do my homework, stuff like that. So yeah, I grew up with a sense of expectation to do big things. And also just that belief and love. And I think just sort of a natural self-confidence grew out of that, to where there's literally never been a time in my life. There have been times where I momentarily doubted myself. But my default position on anything is to believe that I can do it. And I have my mom to thank for that.
That's beautiful. Great story. And I highly recommend the article on dying mothers and fighting for your ideas that you can find at copyblogger.com.
Yeah.
Search for that article. It's amazingly powerful. So, Jon, let's talk a little bit. I know you have had several different businesses, and like you said, you sort of learned selling the best way I think you can learn it, out there in the trenches, face to face, given the good pitch. And like you said, when you know that what you have is something somebody needs, whether it's a solid investment or, a better way to think about blogging, it's really easy to be confident and bold about it. But let's talk about what led you to blogging. I read a little bit about this, and again, it's a great story about a move to Mexico and all kinds of adventures. So I'd like to hear a little bit about that if I could.
Yeah, so the short version of it is, with my disability, I basically need round the clock care. So I need someone with me all the time. I can really only move my face. That's about it. So back when I was younger, I couldn't afford to pay for nurses around the clock. So I was on Medicaid. And when the economy took a nosedive, and when we had the recession back, I guess that was like 2007, somewhere around in that time range, there was a state budget crisis in North Carolina where I was, and they literally started canceling people's Medicaid benefits.
Wow.
Just because even like taking people out of nursing homes and taking them to homeless shelters. It was,
oh my goodness,
it was awful. They canceled my benefits. And there was a whole appeal process that I could go through. So the first time it happened, I appealed. I won the appeal. I got the benefits back. Then they canceled them again. And the other thing was, while I was on them, they had a limit where the maximum amount of money you could make was $800 a month.
That's what you could earn and still qualify for assistance.
Yes. If you earned more than that, you had to give them a check for whatever the difference was. So, like, if I earned $5,000, then I'd have to give them a check for $4,200. That was the deal. Otherwise, you would lose your benefits. So I was feeling immensely trapped. I mean, they were, I'll say up front, I'm very grateful for the support I received. Most people in most countries were very lucky to even get that. So I don't want to seem ungrateful.
Right.
Because I would be dead without that help.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I felt very trapped because, how could I work a job? How could I start a business under those kinds of constraints? And so rather than continuing to fight, what I did was I took a huge gamble, and my mother got laid off of work at the same time. So we basically had this huge crisis, She was laid off of work. I was losing my benefits. And I had a friend that had retired down to Mexico. And I asked him how things were down there. And he kept telling me how wonderful it was, how cheap the healthcare was. So I finally decided to go visit him. So we took a flight down there. We went to visit him. I loved it. And I ended up moving down there. And literally, I think our total savings was like $5,000 that we went down there with. Got a condo on the ocean and started what I'd done up to that point, because I couldn't get paid. So I was a writer for Copy Blogger that you mentioned earlier. And they wanted to pay me, but they couldn't because I was going to lose my benefits, right? So I made this deal with Brian. Said, listen, I'll write for free, but the exchange is that whenever I do get into a position to where I can make some money, I'm going to start asking for some favors, and you can't say no. That's the deal. And I was one of the top writers on the site. I became the top writer on the site while I was there. And so he agreed. And he followed through. And literally, when I got to Mexico, I asked him for referrals for consulting clients. He immediately took me to $10,000 a month in consulting revenue, just off of referrals. And I asked him to promote my first course that I launched. He promoted it without an affiliate link, which made me another $50,000 or $100,000. So I traded, 2 or 3. I worked for free for him for 2 or 3 years. But then when I did decide to go cash it in, I cashed it in a really big way. And so because of that, I was able to immediately upon moving down there, immediately had an income to start coming in, and hired all of my own nurses, and eventually started my own company, and finally got my income level up to where I could afford to come back to the U.S. So it took me 3.5 years. But after 3.5 years down in Mexico, I was able to build my income up and come home. So I moved back to the U.S. It's about 3 years ago now.
Incredible. It's amazing, Jon. And am I right that you just moved to Austin?
I did. So yeah, I was down north of Miami and Boynton Beach.
Okay.
Is where I was before for about 2.5 years. And, but, I mean, Southern Florida, I actually like the weather and the beach and everything down there, but I really love the entrepreneurial spirit of Austin.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So that's what brought me out here.
I live in St. Pete, across the state here.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, nice area. And I'm just trying to recruit more and more entrepreneurs so it can feel like Austin. Because you go there. I have this joke where you're in the airport in Austin and it's like landing in a marketing conference, Everybody has that look of, they're not real stressed about anything. They've got all the new tech gadgets working. They got the cool haircut and it's just funny, man. It's an interesting place and it's a really cool town.
It's very different.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it, the sense of hustle. So yeah, it's a place where I've come and it actually inspires me to work harder and do bigger. It's probably one of the only places in the world I could go and feel like an underachiever around all of the people down here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually been a really good thing for me. It sort of inspired me to take my game up another notch.
Fantastic. Let's get a little tactical for a minute, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because one thing I'm always fascinated by as a copywriter is headlines and subject lines. And I know there's a real art to naming an article so that it gets read and it gets shared. And if I'm here on Smart Blogger, your site, and I'm looking at popular posts, and I'm just going to read a few of. I'm assuming these are listed by what's the criteria for a popular post?
I don't know if it's ranked. I mean, those are some of the most popular posts by traffic, shares, comments.
Yeah.
I can't recall what the exact algorithm is. Yeah.
But they're being interacted with, right?
Yes.
Not the editor's personal choice. Okay.
No.
So, all right. Stephen King's 20 tips for becoming a frighteningly good writer. Yep. Awesome. Writer's block, 27 ways to crush it forever. How to make money blogging, a blueprint for earning $100K per month. How to get more traffic from every post by republishing on Medium. An open letter to bloggers struggling to get more traffic. The ultimate guide to writing irresistible subheads. I just want to read every one of these immediately. The ultimate guide to writing comments that open doors with popular bloggers. Really love that one because it's so specific. Tell me, when I read these out, you having the sort of curse of knowledge, what would the average person not know that's going on here that's helping these posts become so popular?
Yeah, so there are a few different things going on here. The first one, and this is so huge, it's something that even the biggest people miss, is with every one of those posts, we have a target traffic source. Okay? So the way that you write your headline depends on the type of traffic you are targeting. So if you are trying to write a post that gets shared, there's one type of headline. Typically, when you're going for shares, you're looking for power words. You're looking for emotion. Numbers, the numbers in the headline are big on those. On the other hand, if you're going for search engines, it's a different ballgame. So like the how to make money blogging, a blueprint, for earning 100K a month, that one is deliberately optimized for the term how to make money blogging. And that brings in quite a lot of traffic to the site. It's a really popular search term. I mean, we're talking 30, 40,000 visitors a month.
Wow.
That we have, for that post, we've actually tested different headlines and looked at the click-through rate on Google. So using Search Console, which is the new version of Webmaster Tools, you can actually see what your click-through rate is on your search listings. And you can test different headlines. And it turns out that, I mean, for us, usually it's a matter of looking at your competitors and figuring out, why would someone click on yours rather than the other ones? And in this case, it's the other ones can't claim that they're making 100K a month from their blog. That's what's unique about this. So that's why we put it in the headline. And there you go. There's a high click-through rate on the search engines.
Fantastic. Wow. So one formula here, popular search term, but sort of second half of the headline, something very specific that not too many people could claim.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you just say, we tested generic things like how to make money blogging, the best guide for 2016, things like that, I mean, with that, at least you have recency, which is another thing people look for. But in our case, usually, so here's another, whether it's headlines for articles or if it's copy that you're writing, in general, any sort of proof will outperform just about any other claim.
Yeah.
That's pretty much universal. So if you have proof that your competition doesn't, you'll almost always dominate them. And if you don't have that proof, one of the questions you need to ask yourself is, how can I get it? How can I prove that this really is the best option? So that's one of the questions. When I'm planning out articles, I actually plan article topics around proof I have. So it's not a matter of, I'm going to write an article on this subject, and then I go looking for the proof. Usually I start with a piece of proof, and then I develop articles around that piece of proof.
I love that. That's huge. Start with proof. I'm just taking notes as if I'm like we're at a diner.
Yeah.
Start with proof and build the article around that. That's fantastic. That's huge because otherwise, pretty quickly, you end up with sort of empty hype, or you're constantly using examples of people who are succeeding even though you're not. And that can hurt your authority.
Exactly. And if you're competing for a popular term, which any term that's worth ranking for is going to have competition. Okay. So if you ever see a term and it's like easy to rank for it, there's a reason why. Either it's not getting a whole lot of traffic, or the traffic is just completely worthless for whatever reason. So there are certain search terms, by the way. So we have another post that's on Power Words. That post gets like 60,000 search engine visits a month or something. But the traffic is completely worthless because it's mostly college kids and high schoolers typing in like powerful words and great words and things like that into Google. And it was really easy to rank for, but that's the reason why, is because the traffic's not that valuable. So whenever you're dealing with search engines, and the same extent if you're building a funnel or any sort of copy, if you're in a space that's worth being in, you're going to have competition. And usually that competition will have some sort of proof, even if it's only implied, and you need to figure out some way to one-up it. Because usually it's whoever has the strongest proof in the market wins. So that's something we deliberately do. with all of our products, with all of our content. Even like the first thing we do every week on our team meeting is we read out the thank you letters we got from customers that week. And every week we have some. And we collect those, we categorize those, we catalog them, and it's a constant, never-ending process. So we can literally just, whenever we really want to pour on the marketing, we can just bury people in proof.
Yeah.
Just to where they're just like, stop. I believe you already. So that's the position you want to be in.
Brilliant. Geez, so much to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about, well, first, I would just love to hear the numbers. Let's talk about the most relevant numbers as you see them. Obviously, your total visits are in the millions monthly. Page views. What are the stats that you pay the most attention to?
The one I pay the most attention to is actually the new subscribers that we're getting every month. Because some of the traffic is more valuable than others. So, I mean, for example, that powerful, the Power Words post, 60,000 visitors a month from the search engines. But the conversion rate to opt in on that traffic, I mean, it's terrible. It's like 0.2% or something. On the other hand, you go to a post like that Make Money Blogging post, and it's 6%. Okay, so you're looking at the one group of people is who you're looking for, another one isn't.
Now, would you consider that in any way a good thing? Because you know that that's not the highest quality traffic, coming to that post. Is it like, well, I wish I could get more people to opt in who were still coming, even though I know they're searching for things that may never lead them to buy a course or anything. Is it for you? Is it about I want new subscribers, no matter how they get here, because once they're in my world, I can help educate them on what's possible, or is it sometimes like, why puff up your list with people who just probably never going to take action?
I'm more of the second mindset of not puffing up your list, and it's not just a matter of opinion. So we've measured. One of the things we do is we look at the customer lifetime value for every post on the site.
Wow.
Okay, and there is a difference. So that Make Money Blogging post, for example, has about triple the customer lifetime value of the Power Words. So not only is it a higher percentage, but the customer lifetime value is also much higher.
Wow.
So yeah.
So you're tracking every step of the way from how they came into the site, search term they used, where they landed, how they engaged, when they opted in, and total value of purchases from there.
Yep, we do, and it affects the kind of content we publish.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean there are some types of people who are just dramatically more valuable than others.
Yeah.
In general, I mean, a general rule of thumb to use on that, by the way, is just how invested are they in success. That's one of the things that we look for. So one of the easiest sort of hacks to tell the value of a particular customer segment is to say, they type in whatever search term. If you ask them the question, so what have you done so far to achieve whatever the goal is that they're trying to achieve? In a lot of cases, they'll tell you nothing. In general, those people are not that valuable. On the other hand, if they say, I tried X and it didn't work, so I tried Y and it didn't work, and I tried Z and it didn't work, those people are valuable. So that's one of the things we look for too. And that's one of the things you can tell as far as search terms. I mean, as far as their level of thinking and their maturity, as a blogger, someone typing in power words or powerful words is far less along the maturity path of someone who's decided and sort of committed to blogging, and now they're trying to make money from it. Right. So yeah, we deliberately try to target people that are not too early in that process. Now, theoretically, I could probably design a different lead magnet for that power words page. I could design a different autoresponder sequence. Okay. And I could probably get a higher percentage of those people to convert. But on the other hand, I'm trying to convert the worst possible prospects.
Right.
So you almost always, it's a better idea to figure out who your hottest prospects are and to spend your time optimizing for those people rather than trying to persuade people. So if I have to persuade someone to be interested in blogging, for example, then you're already not my target customer.
Right.
But by the time you get to me, I want you to have already made that decision, or at least be close to making that decision. So I think that's one of the mistakes people make. And by the way, that's whenever you hear big traffic numbers. So one of the numbers that gets floated around about me every now and again is, I mean, total on the sites that I've built, they've received over 200 million page views. Okay. That's a lot of page views.
That's a lot of page views.
But on the other hand, how many of those page views were really valuable? It's a fraction of that number. Okay. A lot of that traffic is just junk traffic. That's just never going to convert. So that's one of the things, whenever you're talking about organic traffic, just be aware that a high percentage of the traffic you're getting isn't going to be who you're targeting. Where whenever you're talking about paid traffic, if you pay for traffic, you can target people very specifically and know exactly who you're talking to.
Right.
And you're only talking to those people. So yeah, it's not quite the same ballgame.
Yeah, great point. Important point. That and it requires stringent tracking so that you can understand what are the valuable topics that are helping, attracting the right kind of lead. So many people get caught up just on page views and thinking that's a success, but somehow they get to the end of the month and the bills aren't getting paid.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you want page views, just go make cat videos or something.
Right.
I mean, it works. It really does.
Right? Yeah.
But I mean, that doesn't mean they're going to buy anything from you.
Right.
I mean, so with content, here's one of the crucial lessons that I've learned. The core metric that I'm trying to track, and I'm still in the process of figuring out exactly how to do this. The purpose of creating and releasing content is to accumulate influence. Okay? And influence has many forms, but my definition of it is when I ask you to do something, you do it. Okay? So if I have a bunch of people on my email list, even that's a vanity metric. Okay? If they don't go click on the link, if I tell them to click on a link, or they don't go read a blog post or watch a video, what I'm interested in is when I send out a video or a post or whatever, how many people do exactly what I tell them to do? That's the number I'm interested in. I want to see that number going up. I want to see the number of those people going up that do that, because if they came to my site and they joined the email list, but I have no influence over them, then they're not a valuable lead. Right. So that's the core thing that I look for.
Fantastic. That's great. And I want to point out the current lead magnet, at least, is Headline Hacks, a cheat sheet for writing blog posts that go viral, which is, again, Jon's insights into why he titles this way, beyond some of the awesome points you just made. So I want to respect your time, Jon. I already we'll just publicly invite you that if you'd ever be willing to do a part 2, I'd be all for it because I feel like we've just begun.
Sure.
I want to quickly ask you, if I could, something about I saw you do that fascinated me when it comes to the ask method. I know that you're a big fan of Ryan's system, as I am. We were together at the intensive in Austin there in June. And just after that, you did a cool thing. You sent out an email series and invited people to discover their traffic type. And as we know in Ryan's system, and I don't know even if this is exactly where you found this inspiration, but there's 3 big ideas when it comes to quizzes. One is find your type, one is get your score, and one is identify your killer. Was that what you were up to? Were you sort of validating the premise of one of those big ideas without having to build a quiz?
I was. So it was a way of, I wrote an email series talking about the different traffic types. And I was specifically asking people to reply to the emails. And we got I think it was over 1,000 replies to those emails. The thing I was looking for is how people responded to the idea of a traffic type. What I ended up discovering in this particular case is they didn't like the idea, which surprised me. What I actually found out is what they really wanted is they wanted basically a magic button that they could press that would deliver traffic to their blog. But the idea that there were multiple, types of traffic, that it depended on your personality and all of these different factors, they didn't want to really hear it. So that I actually discovered that way, just before even trying to create a quiz, that idea just wasn't working very well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I just found that brilliant because, I've discovered that one of the trouble spots with the ask method is that people they disrespect the process a little bit because we're all impatient and they want to jump from the DDS, the deep dive survey, to building a quiz. And if they don't take a step like you did and validate the big idea before building a quiz around it, it's really hard to test out of a bad quiz. You don't know, is it the central theme? Is it the big idea? Is it the line of questioning itself, right? There's lots of nuance.
Yep. And that's one of the big marketing lessons that I've learned over the years. I mean, I'd love to tell you that every funnel I've ever created was hit it out of the park, but it's just not true. And the reality is, especially if you're entering a market for the first time, or if it's a new idea that hasn't been tried before, odds are that it's not going to work for some reason. And the faster you can find that out, the better off you are. What you don't want to do is, like you say, if I'd created a whole entire quiz funnel on that idea without testing it out first, it would have wasted hundreds or thousands of hours of my team's time. So that's one of the other lessons out there, is find ways to validate ideas as quickly as possible. And if you don't have some sort of evidence that it's going to work, be very hesitant to invest a lot of time or money into it. First, you always want to validate it.
Awesome. Jon Morrow, I can't thank you enough for spending this time with us. It's a pleasure getting to know you, and thanks for all the wisdom you shared today.
Absolutely, Kevin. Anytime, man.
Smartblogger.com. Go get addicted like I did. You'll love it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Truth About Marketing. Hey, thanks again for listening to the Truth About Marketing podcast. If you like this show and you think other people would like this show, the best way to spread the word is by reviewing and rating the show in iTunes. Just log in, click review, leave a big old fat 5-star review, and let everybody know that you dig the show so that they can dig it too. To get all the links and resources we mentioned on today's episode, please go to copychief.com/TAM, as in Truth About Marketing. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can improve your sales copy with templates, formulas, coaching, feedback, or hiring a pro, do all that on the inside of the members area of copychief.com, and I will look for you there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.